Hey, what's happening out there, guys? Welcome to the 420 news. First things first, let's pack up a bowl as everybody pulls up a seat and hopefully maybe rolling one up, packing one up. What y'all rolling up, packing up out there, guys? Get those comments into the hot box anyway, and we'll get cracking on the 420 news once we do a little bit of civil disobedience. Go on, who's getting the first comment in there in the hot box? Who's it gonna be? Claim that spot. Boom, there we go. We got some garlic mushrooms and onions gone into the bowl. Oi. And some crickets. Stoners, you never rely on them to show up on time, can you? It's alright, I can stereotype us because I'm one of us. Alright, civil disobedience going on out there anyway. Hopefully everybody else watching this is engaging too. So I guess it's Saturday. People are busy. A lot of people out there. Not too many people hanging out and work and throwing on Martin's World in the background. Teresa, what's happening? How's Teresa today? We have Keith dropping in then as well. What's happening, Keith? Excusey. Keith, my man, actually just said as you pop in there, I must get that pipe to you. I just spotted your message there in the Instagram inbox. My sincere apologies for the incredibly delayed getting back to you. But that's there for you. I'll get it to you ASAP. I'll stick it into the post box there first thing in the Monday morning. Just seeing you pop back in there. I only seen that message there like a couple of days ago, maybe about a week or so ago. Don't know if I replied to you actually as well, but I did see it and I felt incredibly bad because I think you sent it in August. How is I believe you were saying in the message you were giving up the tobacco. How is that going for you? Are you still off the tobacco? Were you successful? Did you relapse? Yeah. Yeah, speaking of relapse, actually, you know, I suppose a lot of you probably would have seen the news there recently with our buddy Snoop. You see that with Snoop Dogg? Snoop Dogg quit smoking. No? Anybody? I'm going to pop it up on screen there now if you, one second. Boom, there we go. USA Today, here we go. Boom. So there you see, let me fix that. Boom. Nice, there we go, that's a bit better. It's a bit centered there now, isn't it? Yeah, there we go. Snoop Dogg says he's given up smoke after releasing a bag with Stash Pockets lighter. Stash Pockets lighter. The rapper and entertainment entrepreneur statement shared Thursday in a black and white social media post reads, after much consideration and conversation with my family, I've decided to give up smoke. Please respect my privacy at this time. I'm giving up smoke, and that was added in captions. So there's a lot of people reading into this as to whether, you know, does this mean he's just taking up gummies and stuff like that, you know? There wasn't a whole lot. Like, he just said he's given up smoke, and on here you seen a photo of him. I was actually fortunate enough to be at one of Snoop's concerts there recently, maybe some of the last concerts that he's going to be blazing up at on stage. But a future concert, so is he going to be medicated? Is he giving up cannabis altogether? Because he didn't say I'm giving up cannabis. He said I'm giving up the smoke, which, like, it's quite specific, isn't it? Like, I could say I'm giving up smoke, but that doesn't mean I'm giving up cannabis. It just means maybe I'm going to vaporize and maybe I'm going to edibles. Maybe there's other ways in which I'm ingesting, you know, maybe there's the old suppositories. The key word there is smoke anyway. Like, does he actually give up cannabis altogether? I don't know, but look, I just think it was bad there. There was a lot of people online jumping on the bandwagon, the prohibitionists, kind of saying, oh, look at this, Snoop's giving up. Others kind of jumping on saying, he can't do it and everything, but the guy has to respect his privacy. Like, I know I'm kind of being hypocritical there, mentioning it and whatever, and trying to read into it a little bit, but they're using it to benefit themselves, these prohibitionists, to kind of say, hey, look at this, getting a dig in, your man's giving up the smoke. Isn't it's not that good after all, is it? Um, the person I'm thinking of in question is the Parents Against Pot or whatever that fucking X page is. Oops, wrong button. Whatever that X page is, I'll see if I get her up there now. Pot. No. Nah, we can't find them. Never mind. Doesn't really matter anyway. But the actually Aubrey was Aubrey Adams. I believe she was one of the ones actually as well. This lady. I know I tagged her a little bit there recently, but I do believe she was one of the ones there. Yeah, there she go. This one, look at this one. Getting her little digging. Wishing that Snoop Dogg the best, and I can't imagine how difficult this will be. You know, really getting the little dig in there. Oh, this is incredibly addictive. It's going to be so difficult for him to give up. Like the only difficult thing about it to give up is the fact that it's like such an ingrained habit, you know, for Snoop. Again, you know, it's these people just using it to benefit themselves, I suppose. But best of luck anyway, Snoop, with the giving up the smoke. If you're looking for a good vape, Volcano do some amazing stuff. Boom, there we go. Hit the right button that time. So there we go. That's the first one there. First little bit of news there anyway was Snoop Dogg giving up the smoke. How many of you out there had heard about that already? I'd imagine all of you probably heard it because it was plastered everywhere, like Instagram, X, Facebook. You know, even on the radio there here in Cork. I believe they were on about it in Red FM on Thursday or Friday, whichever day it was, and yeah, there was Snoop Dogg's giving up the cannabis, but no, he said the smoke, not the cannabis. This is for you, Snoop. Teresa says she's the Christmas cake in the oven. Go on, you mad thing, yeah, Teresa. How many days away from Christmas are we like? Is it the practice cake, is it? So here we go anyway. We give a bit more of an audience here. We can get into the bit more serious side of the 420 news because here recently in Ireland, I suppose there's been an uptick in Reefer Madness. We're seeing across the board. The likes of Aubrey Adams that we just had up on screen there, Bobby Smith, your man Finn, that guy over in Colorado. All of these kind of staunch prohibitionists, they've been mad sharing misinformation, Reefer Madness type misinformation. Like, so more specifically, they've been sharing information that's insinuating that cannabis use is leading to murder. Not in just one case, but there's a couple of cases there before the courts. One in America, one here in Ireland, where they're now using these cases as evidence that cannabis leads to murder. And the journalists aren't making it, are doing us any favors either, because the journalists are feeding right into this with the headlines that they're coming out with. But we see Bobby Smith there now. Where's the one that he shared? Or was he? He definitely. There we go. We pop this up there for you. So now we're seeing that up on screen here. These events are uncommon, but there seems to be a global trend of bizarre homicides, often stabbings related to cannabis. And he's quoting from the article here. Forensic psychologists found that Spencer was acutely psychotic during the killing because she had recently smoked marijuana. But like when you actually read into this article, and I call Bobby out for this here, you know, when you actually read into this article, it's not actually cannabis that the woman is after consuming. Like she initially has consumed cannabis, but then she says, "Oh, that's done nothing to me. It's not strong enough." And the fella that she stabbed over 100 times, he said, "I'll get you something stronger." So what did he actually get her? My money is on some form of synthetic cannabinoid that like just sent the lady a bit bonkers, maybe into some paranoid schizophrenic delusion, because these synthetic cannabinoids can be hundreds of times more potent than just regular THC. Like one particular compound, Abu Pinka, or whatever it's called, like that's stated at being almost 85 times more potent than THC. Now, 85 times more potent, and you imagine, you consume um, a cannabis like fucking a bowl's worth of that, and it's 85 times more potent than what you would normally pack into it. Potentially, yeah, that's the reason for it. And Bobby completely ignores the facts of that case there, engaging in this campaign of misinformation, along with, as I mentioned, there are a couple of others who've been doing this. But as I said, the journalists aren't doing us any favors with some of the headlines that they're going with in these cases. Like, what's the headline of this? California woman says cannabis made her psychotic and stabbed boyfriend 100 times. These headlines, clickbait, eye catching, all of that stuff. But they never actually delve really into it. Like, I actually share in this on this article. So you go down along the article and you read it. I'm just going to do Control F. Stronger. Boom, there we go. There's Stronger popping up. So she told Amelia she didn't feel anything from it. So he said he would give her something stronger. And it says after a bong hit of the purportedly stronger marijuana, Spencer became acutely psychotic, according to the court filing by the prosecution that summarised the opinion of its expert psychologist. She heard voices, saw visions, and had delusions that she was dying, the psychologist concluded. Guys, does that sound anything like cannabis? Like, does it? No, it doesn't. As I mentioned here in this, it's most likely a synthetic cannabinoid type product that she consumed and led to this murder. So again, the issue here is that this woman consumed an unknown substance. I don't know actually where this case is coming out of. I believe it's in California, yeah, so it's a legal vicinity. So it's not regulations the issue. It was just she fucking took a unknown substance from a dude who ended up getting stabbed for it in the end. Don't be giving people synthetic cannabinoids, guys, and you might get stabbed by them. There's the warning in that. But yeah, Reefer Madness is alive and well, and as I said, there's a case here in Ireland as well that's ongoing. This is a case involving a man here up on screen, James Kilroy. And again, as I said, the journalists do no favours to the cannabis consuming community in that they said suffered psychotic episode due to long-term effect of chronic cannabis exposure. Now, to the uninformed person reading this, a lot of people will just uninformedly read a headline and just take in that bit of information without reading into the article, and they'll just assume that, oh yeah, it's showing there, look, oh yeah, this fella killed somebody because he had a bit of a psychotic break over cannabis. That's not the case at all. So in this particular case, this man, I actually have an article up over on my own. I just got to my profile. Boom. So the case of James Kilroy. It's claimed he experienced a psychotic episode attributed to long-term chronic cannabis exposure. And as I say here, it raises important questions about the relationship between cannabis use and violent behaviour. And to understand it, you need to understand that cannabis use alone cannot cause a person to commit murder, despite what the actual headline is saying, which read, as I said, John Kilroy suffered psychotic episode due to long-term effect of chronic cannabis exposure. Like, there's no real evidence out there that proves long-term cannabis use leads to this sort of behaviour, Again, you look at like likes of Snoop Dogg, Willie Nelson. Look how long they're consuming cannabis. Cheech Chong. Look how long they're consuming cannabis. Look how many people out there actually that consume cannabis on a long term, and none of them really experience psychotic break in the grand scheme of things, And the number of people who do, it's in line with the number of people who do within just regular populations, and any offset in that number where it might look like there's more people who consume cannabis experiencing these kind of mental health problems. Quite often or not, it's these people are using cannabis as a form of self-medication in the first place. So therefore, you're going to get a lot of correlation, but it's not indicative of causation. Those two things are majorly different. It's like the chart there. They always use the ice cream sales and shark attacks. As ice cream sales go up, shark attacks go up. And it's not that ice cream sales are leading to more shark attacks. It's just that, there's a correlation there, but not a causation. That the numbers correlate, and the reason they correlate, summer and ice cream and sharks and people in the water, it's all correlatory. The exact same could be said with mental health problems and cannabis. A lot of people who experience mental health problems might seek out something like cannabis, and this is shown in the literature as well. It's actually even shown that there's a genetic predisposition there for certain people, where they're more likely to actually seek out the use of substances, and those populations are people who actually suffer with ADHD, that type of disorder. So again, there's a lot of evidence there to show as to why there's a correlation and why it is not indicative of a causation. But yet, nonetheless, you have people like the toxicologist in this instance, like a toxicologist. How is he even able to insinuate as to the long term effects of it? You've another psychiatrist as well making a claim there that it was a substance induced psychosis, but like it's mad that he makes this claim when you take into consideration the next fact of this case, guys. In this case of James Kilroy, who killed his wife after what they claim was a suspected psychotic break due to cannabis use. This guy hadn't used cannabis on 9 days previous to the murder. When he was tested for cannabis, when he was tested for drugs, he actually tested clear. He had no drugs in his system when he was tested. I think it was 2 days after the murder he was tested. But yet, they will insinuate that the cannabis led to this murder. Insane, like, what in the name of God, but they get away with it. They also talk about in the fact that the man started to increase his use of a high-strength cannabis AK-47. Now, actually, funny enough, I actually... You know what? I got some AK-47 rolled up right here. It's like, it's not high strength cannabis. This is like, it's okay. It's not weak, but I wouldn't say it's high strength. Like, there's stuff out there now, like it's going up into the 30s. That's like up on Leafly. Actually, I have it linked in here if you were to actually click in here. Up on Leafly. It's indicating that's 19% THC. Guys, come on, like 19%, that's surely middle of the road. Like maybe a little bit above average, like in terms of strength. Like, but again, like even THC percentage isn't actually really indicative of the cannabis's strength. I know, like, shout out to Bobby over there in the US of A, and he talks about it like that. Sometimes he gets stuff there that's only like 10%, and it's real fire. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, pop back up the wrong page there. But yeah, the case of James Kilroy anyway. You compare this case then here in Ireland, where we're talking like about cannabis and murder, and you take a little hop across the pond, then so let's see all this negative BS behind us right now. Let's take a more positive look at cannabis use and how it can benefit people, and where it is benefiting people, and the people who it is benefiting. Because look who it is. It's it's your nan and granda. It's potentially your mum and dad as they reach their older age. But it's the elderly population. It's a continuing growing population of people who are using cannabis over in the US. Now in New York is the newest state that kind of joined this growth spurt of the older generation consuming cannabis. And there's a lot of reasons why they're using it. Again, they're talking about the health benefits here. They're dealing with chronic pain. They're dealing with anxiety. They're even dealing with dementia. It's mentioned within this article. So the article's over on the New York Times for anybody who wants to go over, give it a read and give it a share. But I'm going to delve into it there. So sit back and join me. So why senior citizens are choosing pot over pills. And again, they're like, just pot over pills. Like, come on, just call it what it is. It's cannabis. Like, stop with the sensationalist headlines. Like, I get what they're doing, pot over pills, like the peas, they're there. Like, but come on, they're choosing cannabis over pills. I don't know, it's a serious article. Like, it should be given the seriousness that it deserves. It doesn't need this clickbaity thing. Surely, like, even just the word cannabis alone, like, it's kind of as seductive as the word sex in terms of its appeal to the eye. I know myself like that. The word cannabis, if I kind of just was to catch it somewhere, it's going to catch my eye and draw my attention to it because So, yeah, I just again journalists and their sensationalist fucking clickbaity headlines. Hope I don't stab anybody after this. um, but it goes, older people are using cannabis more than ever. Here's what's to know about the potential medical benefits and side effects as we age. So it says seniors are one of the fastest growing populations of cannabis users in the United States. While some older adults have used pot for decades, studies suggest that others are turning to the drug for the first time to help them sleep better, dampen pain, or treat anxiety, especially when prescription drugs, which often come with unwanted side effects, don't work as intended. It says in 2017, only about 0.4% of people aged 65 and older in the United States had reported using cannabis in the past year. And according to a recent national drug survey on drug use and health, that number rose to almost 3% by 2016. As of 2022, it was at more than 8%. So that's a major jump there, like, and you can kind of see, like, there's a lot of like, I suppose, what would you say, like evidence there. I suppose evidence, no, I suppose, a lot of support there for the idea that there's a vested interest at keeping cannabis illegal in terms of like losing patients, like, because if you think about this, like these people aged 65 and older, quite often or not, like these are people who will be medicated by their doctor for various ailments, because as we age, it's just the disease of aging. It takes a toll on our body, and funny enough, fucking every this plant that's given to us, it has amazing compounds to help us deal with these undesirable effects of aging, including the offset of like the dementia, Alzheimer's. Like it's mad, the potential there within this one bloody plant. It's crazy, like, and yeah, you'd be forgiven, for somebody insinuating that you're saying, it's a panacea, it's a cure all. Like it's it's an amazing fucking plant. I'll give it that, like. But the article goes on anyway, and it talks about Nancy Herring. She's 76 and has been using cannabis recreationally for her entire adult life. She describes herself as one of those hippies from the 60s, but it wasn't until after her husband was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease and dementia 2 years ago that she began to wonder about pot's medical use. During the course of his illness, her husband, 79, now 79, had developed insomnia, and soon neither of them were sleeping. The doctor prescribed pills to help him rest, but nothing really worked. At one point, he reacted so negatively to a medicine, he ended up in the hospital. So they're like, think about that. He ended up in the hospital because of a reaction to one of the medications. Like, the worst thing that's going to happen with cannabis, like, you potentially could end up in the hospital, but it's a transient thing. You normally don't even need treatment. You just read a bit of positive reassurance. Like, everything's going to be all right. You're going to come out this the other side. You're going to be grand. And quite often or not, that's actually fueled by some of the stigma, that this misinformation that's out there that we just visited on a few minutes ago, like about like cannabis leading to murder. Quite often or not, that can actually fuel the unpleasant effects of cannabis sometimes. Just their expectation in their head, this is going to freak me out, and then they end up freaking themselves out. But anyhow. It goes on to say that then they tried an indica strain from a dispensary near where they lived in Clearwater, Florida. Now, after one gummy and a hit from a pipe, her husband can sleep at night, which is a huge thing. And it is a huge thing, guys, because insomnia, stress, all that stuff, that's an awful killer. And to be able to deal with that symptom, that's huge. As it says, marijuana's medical properties have not been well studied, particularly among older adults, it says, making it difficult for doctors to counsel their patients on the benefits and risks. It says cannabis companies have rushed to fill the void, offering tips to older adults about dose or formulation, and even creating products meant to appeal to them. Meanwhile, as more seniors experiment with cannabis, they are evangelizing to one another about its benefits and sharing the problems they've encountered along the way. And that's a big downfall, I suppose, really. And you have people like myself. I put myself through a herbal science course for 4 years. I went out of my way to learn about the endocannabinoid system. They actually taught us about the opiate system within the herbal science course. I went out of my way on a kind of a self-guided project when you're allowed to choose what you kind of path you took with your project. I chose to do the pharmacology of cannabis, learned about the endocannabinoid system, and specifically to do with the mechanisms of action there behind its anti-epileptic properties, which was an incredibly insightful project to do, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed every project I did in cannabis, actually. I done a lot of self-learning, but the thing is, like, you know, what I'm getting at is doctors aren't learning about this stuff. Like, even in the herbal science course, they taught us about the opiate system. Like, you would think of all places like herbal science, you would start learning about like some of these other systems, like the endocannabinoid system. It's a huge one, but no, the opiate system, because why? There's so many products out there that, you know, you'd be able to deal with, I suppose, you know, in terms of opiate-based products, and they're approved. It's all above board. So many studies you can read into it, like, you know, so they let you learn about that. To cannabis, it's kind of like, no, it's like, I actually even had one of my lecturers kind of say to me, Martin, you sure you want to do another project on cannabis? You know, is it going to be good for the references I have to give you? That guy done a lot of cannabis projects, and it's kind of like, yeah, you don't realize the industry that I want to work in, then clearly. But like, you know, if I was getting that within the herbal science course, what was it like for a doctor? Do you know, your GP, your any of the consultants that are out there going through medical schools within Ireland? Like, cannabis is one thing and one thing only. It's the devil's lettuce. It's a source of problem. And we see that as well within any conversation that happens around cannabis, especially you see the Citizens' Assembly recently. They weren't even allowed to talk about therapeutic potentials there of any drugs. The National Drugs Forum, again, I was only at there over the weekend. No talk of medical cannabis up there. No talking of medical use of cannabis at all. It was all just the harms of drugs, you know. And that's all they would ever look at, and that's all these doctors will ever look at either. So it's no surprise then that it's through the word of mouth, these patients sharing to one another, you know, oh, I suffer with X, Y, or Z, and this strain helped me. And then that other patient saying, oh yeah, I suffer with X, Y, and Z. I'm going to try that actually now. Thanks very much. And that's how they're learning. And that's great, but that's problematic too. But the article goes on to say that people are just desperate, and that's a quote there from Dr. Aaron Greenstein, a geriatric psychiatrist in Denver. Again, like, I all probably think the same thing as me, aptly named Dr. Greenstein, in regards to medical cannabis, but I don't know, is he a medical cannabis doctor? But anyhow, he says they're willing to try anything. When his own grandmother became convinced that she was reliving the Holocaust during the later stages of her dementia, so taking a dissolvable strip with a small amount of THC, the psychoactive component of marijuana, guys, that's the one that they demonize, you know, just the devil compound within the devil's lettuce. But what did it do here? It put an end to her flashbacks, and it helped her feel at peace. And no doubt in doing so, it actually extended this woman's life, you know? He goes on to say, I had dozens of patients who tell me that it has cured their various ailments. And sorry, this is a different doctor, Dr. Haley V. Solomon, a geriatric psychiatrist. So these are two different doctors, two different locations, who are talking about their patients, praising cannabis for how it's helping them. But meanwhile, here in Ireland, we're talking about how it's leading to murder. But she, along with Dr. Greenstein, have written about the promise and risks of seniors using cannabis. They say they think it's really important to listen to them, to acknowledge that, and then to study it further. That's the important part here, is to study it further. We've had this prohibition over the last almost 100 years now, and that's stifled research. Any research, as I just mentioned a few minutes ago, was to be into the harms of cannabis use. And a lot of studies actually into the harms of cannabis use ended up finding positives, and they just buried those studies. You know, you had a Schaefer report that Nixon even pushed, and it came back and recommended decriminalisation of cannabis, saying criminalising is a bit over the top for this. It's not really justified, and he just buried that shit. He ignored it, and he just went ahead and was like, yeah, it's enemy number one. Oh, God. But the doctor is going to say here, older adults need to be aware of the potential drug interactions, she added, and also to consider how cannabis can affect cognition, coordination, and balance. And that's important, you know, because at least in New York now and stuff, that these patients working with cannabis can still actually talk to their doctors about the use of cannabis. How many patients here in Ireland over 65 might use cannabis, source it from the street, and never talk to their doctor and not realise, you know, that whatever drug that they're on, it's going to kind of interact a little bit Even though there's not too many drugs out there that actually interact with cannabis, but again, if they're on some anti-anxiety medication or something like that, I don't know. There could be just putting the patient over the top. Again, it's not where they need to be. They need to be able to be in a situation where it's safe for them to actually come and talk to their doctor. This picture here then of this elderly lady, Carminetta Werner, 88. She started a cannabis club in Maryland retirement community, and she recently used ChatGPT to produce an 89-page manual about medical cannabis for her members. And this part of the article starts with, medicine isn't working. And without a North Star guiding older adults on how to use cannabis, again, this is what I just thought about, their health professionals should be their North Star. But the health professionals just fucking need somebody to guide them because they're all uneducated, unfortunately. People like myself could actually go out there and do a lot of work actually educating doctors. And I would have no problem doing that either. I would nearly do it for free too. I would happily do it for free, to be fair, if I thought that it was going to result in a better educated medical professional medical professionals out there working with patients. Yeah, exactly. So Carminetta Werner, 88, has become the go-to source for cannabis information at her retirement community. The sprawling Leisure World complex in Montgomery County, which houses about 8,000 older adults. In 2018, she founded a club devoted to educating residents about medical cannabis, and the club's membership has now grown to about 100 people, and it might even be higher if it weren't for the stigma still associated with the drugs, says Miss Werner. There are a lot of people up here that are suffering and in pain, and medicine isn't working for them. And it says Damien Cornwell, the owner of a dispensary in Binghamton, New York, that opened in February, said his business has attracted customers who are seeking relief they can't find at a doctor's office. They have ailments such as rheumatoid arthritis, anxiety, and insomnia. And it says as more states legalize cannabis, it's now permitted for recreational use in more than 20 states in Washington, D.C., and for medical use in 38 states and DC. The number of seniors who turn to cannabis will only continue to grow, as experts say. In October, Gallup poll found that about 2/3 of adults 55 and older think the use of marijuana should be legal. And that's very much in line here in Ireland as well. Any polls that have come out here in Ireland too found that the majority of people are in favour of it. Maybe the older population in Ireland aren't up to where the American older population are. Maybe we're still a bit behind, but I'd imagine we'd still get enough to win a vote on it. Stabby. Cannabis brands are court and seniors, then it goes on to say here. And it says court and seniors, but in reality, they're just providing something that's needed, and they're just probably helping educate them and listening to the elderly patients and providing based upon their needs, because maybe not all of them want to smoke. Because it says here, look, this individual, Stephen Hickerson, who lives in Laguna Woods, California, wants to sleep better, and he used sublingual drops, but said it didn't help, so he's trying gummies, which seem to work much better. And again, just having that ability there to get that variety on cannabis, being able to choose between sublinguals, between gummies, high strength, low strength, mid strength, it's that's exactly what patients need. They need to be reassured that what they're getting is what they're going to benefit them, or it's going to at least be what it says it is. Rather than here in Ireland, where recently we found that over 50% of gummies, edibles, were synthetic cannabinoids. Keep that in mind, guys. The most growing population of cannabis users in the US there at the moment is the elderly population. What's going on here in Ireland? How many of our elderly population are kind of learning about the benefits of cannabis, wanting to explore it, and then ended up getting fucking poisoned because they end up with synthetic cannabinoids? Something needs to change, and it needs to change soon. I know, and we'll get to this, but there's a bill there on the 31st of January. It's just not soon enough. Says our companies are capitalising anyway on the newfound interest. Earlier this year, Mr. Hickerson was bussed to an event organised by Glasshouse, one of the biggest cannabis brands in the country, along with about 50 other people from his retirement community who were offered cannabis products at a substantial discount. And that's a great opportunity for them, because not only are they getting a discount, but they're going to a place, and it's a free transport by the sounds of it, where they're going to meet people who know about the products and are going to be able to talk to them about the products. And that's great, because obviously they're not going to be getting that from their own doctor or at their retirement home. The company here, Trulieve, which is the largest retail footprint for cannabis products in the United States, and a 750,000 square foot cannabis cultivation facility in northern Florida is also connecting with older people through educational sessions at senior living communities. So, like, they say they're courting them, but I'd say I say they're educating these patients. Yeah, sure, the patients are going to have a bit of what would you say, loyalty towards those who's educated them, but there's no like contract being signed here between the elderly population and these companies. They're giving them discounts on the products and everything. Like, they're doing them a favor, if anything. They're not taking advantage of them, that's for sure. Kim Rivers, the co-founder and chief executive of Trulieve, said uh, their wisdom customers, those 55 and older, that's a nice one. Their wisdom customers. They don't want to call them elderly customers. They'll call them wise customers. But you insinuating young people aren't wise. They're growing year over year. In Florida, she added that these adults represent 20% of their customer base. That's huge. Bristol Extracts, which manufactures cannabis in New York, has created a brand called Senior Moments. And I suppose that's normally a kind of a negative trope, isn't it? Like, you'd kind of, you're having a bit of a senior moment there, yeah. But now they have a product there called Senior Moments. It sounds nice. A collection of tinctures, gummies, and mints that they debuted in March. It's time to spice things up a little, proclaims the company's website. Growing older doesn't have to be mundane. Yes, I love it. It's time. The brand's edibles also have ingredients like ginkgo biloba, and that's a really good one, actually, guys. Talking about like superfoods. Ginkgo biloba, that's our advertised as supporting memory and mood. Soon the line will include body balms and gummies that function as both sleep aid and an aphrodisiac. And this is an area that I was hugely interested in, actually, throughout my time in college, which was functional foods, like the likes of cannabis, the likes of ginkgo biloba. You know, there's so many other cacao. There's just so many others functional foods out there, superfoods, you know, whatever kind of term you want to put on them. But these are, like, again, you want to be biblical about it. These are like God-given plants, trees, shrubs, seeds, whatever you want to call them, given to us for our use. And like, I learned about how these things help us function. You know, you've got so many plants out there. Geez, I could do hours upon hours on all different plants out there, but we'll stick to the cannabis one. But combining cannabis then with different herbs there to kind of have this an increased energy, because you look at things like ginkgo biloba now, I'd imagine there's probably compounds in there that when you combine them with some of the compounds in cannabis, that you get that synergy that they talk about, where this 1 + 1 = 3, where you get this enhanced effect where the output is more than the input. And that's just because of what they describe as a synergy of these compounds within the body. It's amazing. It's an incredible area to study, and there's it's incredibly complex too. But it goes on to say that soon the lineup will include body balms, gummies that function as both a sleep aid and aphrodisiac, said the company's founder and chief executive, Eric Blazak. So what are y'all saying out there, guys? AGT, welcome to the Saturday Sesh here. Sorry about the short notice there as well, everybody, about getting the stream out on a short one. ATG is in the audience as well, Temple Grower. So you've GT, Green Tea, Temple Grower, B Mooney. Hey, what's happening? L. Who else out there? Hi and Homegrown, what's happening? Who else we see in the audience? Ballista, David D, Mr. Wes. Yes, nice to see you all out there, guys. Sorry there for just being waffling on for the last while, just baiting through that article, because there was quite a bit to it, like, but I thought it was worthwhile spending a bit of time just on that article there, because it was quite a positive article, in fairness, and it contrasted well to the other news that we were covering there recently, on the cannabis and murder, you know. Because you're never going to have the likes of a Bobby Smith or Ray Wally talking about, like, oh yeah, look, cannabis actually can help with mental health problems too. You know, shout out to Alan Robinson. Alan Robinson is prescribed cannabis above in the north of Ireland for his own mental health. And he swears by how beneficial it is to him. You know, and he's not getting any urges to stab anybody. I'd imagine it's quite the opposite effect, in fairness, like. So what are y'all saying in the hot box anyway, guys? David D says, "Hi Martin, have you heard of the company in Cork called Olio?" I have indeed. I've actually met their CEO, Richard. Nice guy. Got to meet him there in Cork, down in Mayo's Cafe, a lovely spot, guys, if you're from Cork. But Mayo's Cafe, I got to meet him down there having a chat, and himself and his wife actually, I believe, run the company. At least he's running it, and she's in a role within the company. But obviously, they're running together. Yeah, sure, his company's in a bit of trouble just because of the landscape here in Ireland. There's not a whole lot of customer base to be able to sustain the business. I believe he kind of overinvested in the amount of products, overestimated the amount of patients that were going to be able to be provided cannabis, and I'm not too sure really what happened to all of that stock. Was he able to offload it to somebody else who got use of it, or what? But yeah, I didn't go really as he quite as he planned. I actually should reach out to him and get him lined up as a guest because he was a nice guy to chat with. So yeah, so we'll see if he'll come on. Oh, GT says I've adopted your Tangy Chocolate clones. Was just feeding them there. Nice. Now I'll be trimming some frosty gelato, but I'm still listening. Excellent, GT. Enjoy that. Sticky fingers and all. Temple Grower saying nice. I've smoked some badass OG, grew a while back, very rubber smelling. No, BB in mind though. Guys, if you haven't already, get over there onto X and check out Temple Grower's recent posts. He recently cleaned his grinder, and oh, what a return you got there, TG, from that grinder. A nice little sleeve of hash, like, you know, it was like rolled up like a little fruit leather type of roll. Looked really nice. Um, but the grinder, man, that was spotless afterwards. So guys, get over there, give Temple Grower and I'll follow on X, and of course over on YouTube as well. Hmm. Yeah, it's great to see everybody chatting there in the hot box. Right, guys. Hey, Bobby O'Brien just jumping in there as well. What's happening, Bobby, my buddy? If we want to thank anybody, GT, for those chocolate up clones, anyway, it's Mr. O'Brien. We say no more, but Mr. O'Brien, you're a legend. But guys, do converse away amongst yourselves there in the hot box. I'll get back over here and I'll just finish off this article really quick, and we'll drive on to what's left then in the 420 news. We'll have a couple of more bowls and chats. So it says here, what should older people know about cannabis? That's a very important question. What should they know about cannabis? Because like a lot of older people, especially here in Ireland anyway, they're not even going to have a past use of cannabis, because it wasn't really as much of a thing here, I suppose. Back in the 60s, 70s as it was in, say, America. So you're more than likely to have more people who would have used cannabis back in the 60s and 70s in America than you have in Ireland. So it's understandable then that our older population are going to be so much more undereducated here, and therefore it's going to be even more important that that they're given the right information first. And knowing what that question is to answer is important. But it says because cannabis is not federally legal, doctors don't have enough research to guide them on what conditions it is helpful for, who might be at a higher risk for potential harms, how to dose it properly, or which strain to recommend. Dr. Benjamin Han, an addiction and medicine specialist at the University of California, San Diego, and one of the few geriatricians in the United States who studies older adults and substance use. What makes it even more complicated is cannabis is a very complex plant, and that it is. It's a treasure trove of compounds. But that just adds to its complexity then, because one strain isn't equal to the next strain. It's like a fucking a big Rottweiler and a little Chihuahua. Major difference there. He added that there are over more 100 cannabinoids that are biologically active compounds in the cannabis plant, as well as products with different ratios of THC to cannabidiol or CBD. So again, you've all these different cannabinoids, all different ratios. So there's so much there. There's so many variables to be studied, and it's why it's such a shame that we weren't doing it over the last number of decades. And why weren't we doing it over the last number of decades? Because we were too fucking busy trying to come up with information to demonize the plant, That's pretty much what we studied. Like there was a study actually done on all of the studies into cannabis, and it found that over like 85% of the studies done in cannabis between like the 1950s and the 2000s were into the negative effects of cannabis. You know, a massive, massive effort there to demonize this plant, and in doing so, we missed a massive opportunity to learn about how it's going to help the most vulnerable in our society. Those with mental health, you've got those who are aging. You know, you've got those with some seriously life debilitating conditions such as epilepsy, such as chronic pain. We've done them all a disservice in order to demonize this plant, and they weren't even successful in doing so. Look at the plant now. Look how it's glorified in every bloody way, in every different bloody medium out there. You know, music, TV, films, you know, TV shows. So everything is highlighting cannabis use in a beneficial way. Like we even had that the Coronation Street or EastEnders. I was mixing them up, like, and you know they were using cannabis for medical use within it. Like, you know, it's everywhere. Like their effort to demonize it failed, but now we're realizing like the real damage that prohibition has done and continues to do. But it goes on to say here, start low and go slow. If a patient wants to try cannabis products containing THC, Dr. Han recommends starting at a low dose, generally 1 milligram to 2.5 milligrams, and then give it 1 week before making the decision to increase it. And that's very good information. Like I would agree with that, especially for a first timer in using cannabis, because tolerance was a real issue when it comes to cannabis use. So if you haven't used cannabis before, your tolerance is going to be on the floor. It's as low as it can be. So you're going to have an incredible sensitivity to it. So 1 milligram, like, it might sound like nothing to us out there, like me sitting here hitting this, like, but to the person who had the uninitiated, that's a decent dose to start with, especially looking for those therapeutic doses. Going up as far as 2.5 milligrams, you know, within that first kind of little trial period, and then after a week or so, deciding to increase it. That's very good information. Like, but you know, the unfortunate thing here in Ireland, where in the name of God is a patient in Ireland going to get access to a 1 milligram or a 2.5 milligram dose of cannabis? You're just not going to get it unless you're fortunate enough to be able to get onto the medical cannabis access program. But guess what? They don't give it for arthritis. They don't give it for insomnia. They don't give it for these things here in Ireland. So those patients, if they do want it for that, they're going to go, unfortunately, be looking on the black market where they're not going to get this information. They're not going to get this type of product that can deliver that kind of a dose, unfortunately. It says here, taking too many edibles can cause dizziness, confusion, changes in heart rate and blood pressure, panic attacks, anxiety, nausea, vomiting, and even land some people in the emergency room. And the reason that is actually is because when you take edibles, the cannabis is processed by the liver. It produces 11-hydroxy metabolite, which is actually more potent than THC. So for some people, if it's their first time taking a cannabis product, it's incredibly important that they stick to that dosage above. Because if it says they're taking too many edibles, but like what they're really saying is overdosing. Taking too high of a dose can lead to dizziness. But you know what? You know what it doesn't lead to? It doesn't lead to respiratory failure. It doesn't lead to these people dying. No, it leads to some uncomfortable moments, you know, a bit of a panic attack, anxiety, you know, a bit of nausea, whatever. You know, it's just like, it's transient. You come out the other side. As I said, all they need in that time is a bit of a reassurance. You're going to be grand. You'll come through this. A lot of times, if you calm them down, it kind of takes away the symptoms there. A lot of the times, the symptoms are because of like a heightened awareness. They're panicking now. Oh shit! Like, oh jeez, I never felt like this before. And am I dying? I must be dying. I can hear my heartbeat. Oh god. You know. Oh, it's crazy, like, but I really do feel for people in those situations, like, because it's uncomfortable. I've been there myself. I laughed at it afterwards. I enjoyed it looking back in it afterwards. In the moment, it was uncomfortable. I didn't like it, but it was kind of looking back. It was a challenge, and I like challenges. So it was good. It was a positive thing more than a negative thing. And I'm thinking at the time I actually went into the isolation chamber here in Cork. There's an isolation tank, sensory deprivation. Really cool, but Jesus, I went above and beyond in terms of dosing myself up with edibles before going there. Cycled across the city to it, got into the tank, and I done a 2-hour trip inside in there because I just doubled up in the session. Normally you just go in for the hour. I done 2 hours inside there, and it was amazing. Challenging as fuck, but amazing. Highly recommend it, guys. Worth every penny. It's expensive to do it, in fairness. I think it's like 50 quid a go or something for the hour, but it's well worth it. Like, if you can do it at all. They're here in Cork. Um, Shit, what's it called? Float Labs? No, not Float Labs. That's the one Joe Rogan to be talking about. Float Ireland? Damn, apologies for not remembering your name, Dave. My bad. I remember the owner's name, but really good spot. They're out in the Model Farm Road anyway for anybody in Cork wanting to do that. But sorry, I digress. Back to the article. They go on to talk about here, there's also the potential for cannabis hypermesis syndrome, a condition that causes recurring vomiting in heavy marijuana users. What was the other one that they said that cannabis hypermesis syndrome led to screaming and vomiting. Oh, scromiting. Oh, these prohibitionists, man, they're full of comedy gold. Like just Reefer Madness, for example. Like, how many people watch that and laugh at it now? Says here, one study led by Dr. Ian found that emergency department visits associated with cannabis use among older adults rose more than 1,800% in California, from 366 in 2005 to 12,167 in 2019. And again, you keep that in mind that, again, all of these hospital visits none of them were fatal, because if they were, they would have said it here. All of the patients probably going there probably just had a bit too much of an edible, got a bit, over intensified in the experience. It was too intense for them, and they thought they were going to die. I have to go to the hospital. Like, how many of you out there, guys, have dealt with a first timer who thought they were, they're going to die because of the cannabis? Like, and again, it's Reefer Madness that's planted that seed there in their head. If anything, Reefer Madness is actually more of a cause of bad trips, if you want to call them that, like on cannabis. Says older users may lean on their prior experiences with the drug, but the cannabis today is very different. Oh, here we go. It's stronger, and then on top of that, there are all of these psychological changes with aging that make you more sensitive that you would have been 40 years than you would have been 40 years ago. And to mention the fact, like, if they haven't consumed in, say, 20 or more years, that their tolerance is completely gone. So that's nothing to do with aging. That's just the thing to do with tolerance. So if aging actually makes you more sensitive, then again, like, that's even going to intensify it even more. So it's like of course there's going to be more people go to the hospital. But the important thing there is, like, nobody died. Everybody was grand, and probably the only thing they actually needed, as I said, is just that reassurance, a little bit of positive reassurance. Look, it's going to be all grand. You're going to survive. You're going to be okay. You're not going to die. Yes. So it finishes off here in this article with, discuss the risk and benefits with your doctors. It's important to talk with your clinician or health provider, especially if you're using it for medical reasons to treat chronic disease or chronic symptoms, said Dr. Han. Cannabis can interact with certain medications like warfarin. Now, guys, keep in mind, warfarin reacts with everything. Every single drug out there will react with warfarin. At least that's what I've been led to believe in my time studying medicines. Like, literally, it's the only medication that you will ask for nearly every single drug that a person can be taking. Like, is he on warfarin? If you're on warfarin, I don't know, can I give you this? It's crazy. That thing reacts with everything, so it's not a surprise it's there for cannabis. But it also says there are sedatives like and hypnotics like Ambien, benzodiazepines like Xanax, or people who drink alcohol. Yeah, I would definitely say that. Like, if you're taking these other medications, like, that you should probably, like, lessen your amount of cannabis. But quite often or not, what people find is when they're using cannabis, they actually lessen their use of these medications. It's unfortunate if they take these medications and then try cannabis afterwards. Like, but. Yeah, but the thing with drink, that's totally avoidable. Like, yeah, I would agree. Like, you shouldn't really be drinking alcohol when consuming high doses of cannabis. At least not taking high doses of alcohol alongside high doses of cannabis. They don't really mix well. You're going to end up fucking pulling no whitey, greeny. It's never good. Says Dr. Solomon here, says, because when paired with those drugs can cause dizziness and confusion and make seniors more susceptible for falls and injuries. And smoking cannabis can trigger respiratory symptoms in those with chronic lung diseases, guys. And it says Dr. Han, and especially, guys, if they're getting their cannabis in the black market where it's not tested, at least in the US of A, like, they can get their cannabis tested for compounds such as what is it? It's like a mold, I believe, again, aspergillus. It can be found growing on cannabis, and if you breathe it actually into your lungs, it's incredibly harmful. So they test for that there over in America. And Miss Werner recommends educating yourself by going to a licensed dispensary that sells products that have been tested, again, very important, tested by a third party. Familiarize yourself with state regulations too. You just need to educate yourself, not be afraid of things. Learn for yourself. You need to know what may work for you, and you go from there, says Miss Werner. And again, that's very important. But unfortunately, in a system where prohibition is the way that we do things, it's very hard for people to educate themselves. Like I know people who are still afraid to actually Google cannabis like stuff, things about cannabis, because of fear of cops kicking in their door. Through trial and error, she discovered that CBN, which is not psychoactive, was most helpful for her insomnia. Now she takes fewer pills, just one for her thyroid levels and another to reduce her blood pressure. Many other adults end up with all these bottles of medicine, she said, and I don't think that's necessary. Again, she might think it's not necessary, but there's a lot of people out there who depend on it for money who think it is very necessary, and it's definitely nothing to do with the money that they get from it, So there you go, guys. Like that's a crazy contrast there. Between articles that are coming out here in Ireland about cannabis and murder, and over there in the US of A about senior citizens being the most fastest growing population of people taking up cannabis use. They went from 0.4% in 2007 up to 8% in 2022. That's a massive, massive jump. What is like a 2,000% increase? 2,000% increase, I think, in what's that, 15 years? Go on, seniors. Or sorry, go on, wisdom consumers. Wisdom consumers. Shout out to anybody in the audience over 55. I hope you don't take offense to me talking about you as elderly. Oh, TG saying that the hash was divine that he reclaimed from his grinder. Love it. So he's super stoked. It turned out so well. Nice. Kid Allen says woodwork class, first time stoned, funniest class ever. He couldn't take his hand out of his pockets. The ice has called an ambulance. I can't feel my legs. What was that in again, that movie? And some guy smokes, I think he smokes weed or something. He's like, I can't feel my legs. And he just starts laughing. He's like, oh yeah, that's right. I don't have any. Some guy in a wheelchair. Fuck, what was that in? Yeah, funny shit. David E says, hypothetically, if you fit the criteria for getting medical cannabis, Martin, can you get it through the government, or where do they get it from, and the legality surrounding it? Just a quick breakdown of it, if you don't mind, bro. I don't mind at all, because I suppose you kind of give me an opportunity to bring up the next article that I wanted to dive into with you guys, and that's where is it now? This one. Boom. So some of you might have seen this there throughout, it was like 2 weeks ago or something like that. I think I might have even talked about it there not too long ago myself on here. But Ireland's first medical cannabis clinic, Medican, opens its doors, it says. And pictured here behind me is the CEO of Medican, Gary Whipp, who was actually, guys, shout out to Irish Canna Clinic. I believe he was a guest there very recently on Irish Canna Clinic's YouTube channel. So if you haven't already subscribed to that, get over there, give Irish Canna Clinic a subscribe, and give that episode a watch, because you'll probably learn more from that than you will hear from me right now. Because I'm just going to dive into what's up here on this. I've been told other stuff, but I've been asked to kind of sit in it, because it's not information that's supposed to be out there just yet. But I'll certainly get it out to you as soon as it's okay to. But it says Medican CEO Gary Whipp told the Irish Mirror that the clinic has been inundated since it began accepting patients who wish to know if they're eligible. In Ireland's first medical cannabis clinic, Medican has opened its doors in the country, covering all conditions treatable with medical cannabis to improve the quality of life for patients. And guys, as far as I know, they haven't actually opened doors anywhere. I'm not aware of actually a door opened. I'm just aware of an announcement and the fact that like there's an online route now for patients to reach out and get in contact with these guys and apply to them or through them for access to cannabis. But as far as I know, anyway, there is no brick and mortar location. Now, I'm open to correction on that. I do believe they have an address here in Ireland, which isn't really the same thing as a brick and mortar place where somebody can walk in and get information. So I'm open to correction on that anyway. But in 2021, Health Minister Stephen Donnelly announced that medical consultants could register themselves and their patients through medical cannabis access program, calling the landmark move a significant step forward in the ongoing delivery of medical cannabis. It's 2021. It's nearly 3 years ago now, like, and nothing else has happened. The MCAP is fucking pretty much dead in the water. How many people are actually really getting access through the MCAP? Not that many. I don't even think the number has broke 100 yet. Most patients still have a ministerial license. But anyhow, according to the research, cannabis-based products can be used to treat several conditions, including Alzheimer's, as I mentioned, multiple sclerosis, epilepsy, and many forms of cancer. It's also been shown to reduce chronic pain, nausea, and vomiting, and loosening stiff muscles. Medican CEO Gary Whipp, whose background is primarily in tech, has been studying cannabis for 5 years and is qualified cannabis consultant. Whatever that actually means. I wonder where he's qualified. Yeah, hopefully he answers that there now in Steve's interview once I give that a watch later. But he told the Irish Mirror that Medcan first launched in sunny Jersey in 2019 has since set up clinics in Guernsey and the Isle of Man. Now Medcan has opened the first Irish clinic recently and has been inundated since it began accepting patients who wish to know if they are eligible for treatment with medical cannabis. As well as running an online clinic, Medican will have a physical clinic in Ireland. Will, yeah, you see, that's the keyword there, will have one. With the hope that this will become more popular as local doctors are trained. We'll have a physical clinic and we'll have an online secure telehealth clinic. The physical clinic will become more and more popular as we train more local doctors. So my doctors are from the UK, from Jersey, from Guernsey, from the Isle of Man, and we're now recruiting and training local doctors. And that's good to hear. I like hearing that, and I hope the uptake is high. Most of the consultations currently will be on the secured telehealth platform. Again, as I said, they don't have a brick and mortar place yet, which is a video conference call with a specialist consultant in whatever the condition is that the people are looking for to be treated for. So that's good. It sounds here like that they're going to have various consultants on their team. So you get in contact with these guys. They'll put you in touch with the relevant consultant. That consultant can then make a recommendation based upon your medical history, upon your treatment with medical cannabis. So that's kind of a positive thing. It says there in 2021, Health Minister Donnelly announced that medical consultants could register themselves and their patients through the MCAP scheme, which is to operate on a pilot basis for 5 years, which is now reaching its freaking conclusion now. I think it's 5 years, started in 2017, so it actually should have been like done in now, isn't it? Suppose they didn't actually launch it until 2019, I think it was. But that November, a Dublin man became the first person to be prescribed a medical cannabis product through the programme. Oh no, that was 2021, so that November, actually, 2021, it says it here. While the scheme has been hailed as a major milestone, a campaign has been launched to widen the criteria for medical cannabis with calls to make allowances for conditions such as chronic pain. Gary said that Medcan can apply for ministerial licence, which allows them to prescribe for a particular condition for an individual, meaning someone who experiences chronic pain could be eligible. As far as Irish law is concerned, we have the MCAP programme, which offers a rebate for certain medical conditions, which we will be able to prescribe for, but then we will also have what's called a ministerial licence. Whereas if you look at other jurisdictions and you look at things like pain, chronic pain, etc., that is not something that the MCAP program currently accommodates. It may do so in future, but currently it doesn't. So we have a ministerial licence that we can apply for. Let's say it's me and I've got chronic pain. I've played rugby for the Isle of Man. I've had X injections. I've tried lots of different treatments and I'm under a specialist for pain. Then one of our consultants could prescribe for pain in that instance. So like, listen to that. Like, look at everything you have to go through. You have to have X injections, lots of different treatments, and be under a specialist for pain. And then they can prescribe. You know, that's still a lot. Like, it's still not good enough. Like, you're still not walking into a spot and saying like, all right, I'm suffering with this and I need to get access to it as I heard it benefits me. they're still going to be like, well, you've to actually jump through the hoops your government put in place before we can actually deal with you. So as each individual gets a ministerial license, it lasts for 12 months, and that allows us to prescribe for that particular condition. That's the only real difference between the other jurisdictions in Ireland, is that the initiating of it needs to be to have a ministerial license if it's not one of the MCAP conditions. He added, we can source anywhere we want because we have the license to do that. We can currently bring in products from Canada, we can bring products from Europe, and we can bring in new products from the UK. The first product that's been produced in sunny Jersey will be available in 2 weeks. But what they're not saying here is that they actually can't prescribe all of the products that they prescribe across the UK, because in Ireland they can actually only prescribe what's on the approved products list, which, to the best of my knowledge, the only flowers on it anyway are the Bedrocan flowers. Again, open the correction there, I haven't looked at that list in a bit of while, but the last I seen anyway, it was just Bedrocan had flowers present on that list. All the other companies had oils, capsules and stuff like that, but only Bedrocan had actually flowers approved. And that's irradiated cannabis, which some people have problems with. Maybe a lot of people. I'm not particularly like against it as such. I think it has its place. I wouldn't like choose if I had a choice. It wouldn't be my first choice. But like, am I against it as such? Like, no, I think it has its place. Keep in mind, like, this gamma radiation is a food safe type of radiation. They use it commonly on foodstuffs, especially powdered type foods like your spices and stuff. They're commonly gamma radiated and things like cannabis. It doesn't actually increase any like heat or anything like that, so it doesn't interact a whole lot. I say, maybe there's some interaction there, but the interaction that's been found, say, in regards to cannabis anyway, based upon, again, Bedrocan's own studies, is that the loss was only terpenes lost, and that the loss was no different than what would have been lost at the given room temperature at the time of the gamma radiation. So that was just an interesting finding in that one. So anyhow, sorry, it went off on a bit of a tangent there about the products, but says a lot of doctors are reticent. A lot of doctors don't have any knowledge of medical cannabis. We just promoted Medical Cannabis Awareness Week because the more people who are aware of it, and the more people who see it, if they're eligible, and the more people who are eligible, and the word gets around, the more people stop thinking of it as a recreational drug, and the more people will look at it as a medication that has amazing properties. Well, the reason people see it as a recreational drug is because the media has been like just making it out as that for how long? The authorities have been making it out as only that for how long? You look at how it was scheduled. Schedule 1, high potential for abuse, no medical qualities. Like that says it all, really. Like, so no wonder people are seeing it as only a recreational drug, when in fact they should be seeing it as it's a medicinal plant with recreative qualities. It's not a recreational drug at all. It's completely the opposite way around. It's more medicinal than recreative, but it can certainly be incredibly recreative. But it's not a recreative plant. It's a medicinal plant with recreative qualities. Goes on to say here that what a lot of people don't know is if you look going back in history, that just made no sense. That the Egyptians used it, the Chinese used it, Queen Victoria used it. This thing has been around for hundreds of years, and it's only now that people are starting to realise what the benefits are. No, it's not only now that people are starting to realise it, and starting to remember what we were made forget. Because like, you think about cannabis as a medicinal plant, it was the only plant that was actually removed from the American Herbal Pharmacopoeia and the British Herbal Pharmacopoeia at a time during the rise of cannabis prohibition, when they were out to get it. 1942, I believe, they removed it from the British Herbal Pharmacopoeia. It was in it up until then. I think they took it out of the American Herbal Pharmacopoeia a bit sooner than that. But basically, a herbal pharmacopoeia is it's basically like an encyclopedia that contains information about plants, how to grow them, how to harvest them, how to process them, and their medicinal properties, and how to, of the different kind of processes, and even harvest, because like some plants you might harvest in the morning to get more of a certain compound, or you might harvest it at a different time in order to get more of a different compound. And they had all of this inside these herbal pharmacopoeias, and they took it out about cannabis to make us forget. But it didn't work. We're learning it now, and we're realising, hey, this is actually an incredible plant. It's not a miracle cure by any stretch of the imagination, as I often say, but it certainly is a product or a medication that does change people's lives and gives them a quality of life that they've never had before. And I agree strongly with that. So hopefully some of that answers your questions there, Dave. In Ireland, you can only get access still through your consultant after you've tried all of the other available drugs and treatments and all of that kind of stuff. Like, I believe my consultant, my neurologist, I would imagine he would actually recommend for me to get brain surgery before standing behind me getting access to cannabis. You know? I think about that. Like brain surgery for epilepsy, they basically try to locate the part of the brain that's like firing, causing the seizures, and they remove that. They cut it out. They remove it. They'd do that before they would like stand over and give me cannabis. Like I had on a mother before. Geez, not Karen Gray. Shit, Karen's son Murray has epilepsy as well, but Cole's mum, what's Cole's mum's name again? Jeez, the name is eluding me, but I've had on these mothers and they talked about this, that their consultants actually recommended surgeries, and even in the case of Cole, they actually did remove a little piece of his brain and it wasn't very successful, and he wanted to go back and remove another fucking piece, you know? Insane, absolutely insane. I think this mother still privately funds the prescription. I believe they were only marching there not too long ago. Like, let's go over there to the X. Ender Pain, I think, was part of it. Ender Pain. Or actually, even better again, Intractable. So intractable epilepsy, set up the this is the one. So this charity was set up to actually help patients fund their medical cannabis prescriptions because can already feel the emotions fucking welling up here because she kills me because we're so long down the road. There's no reason for this to be the case. Like, kills me. But there they are.
But in 2023, everyone here wants to be able to.
1 second now, because I know I moved this there earlier. I'm just going to line this back up there properly for yourselves, guys. There we go, that's good.
To access medicinal cannabis on the NHS, but currently can't. The UK government changed the law 5 years ago to allow it, but in 2023 it's still nearly impossible to get a prescription from the health service.
Are you going to read that?
One of those there today was Karen Gray. She's been calling for better access to medicinal cannabis for years. Her son Murray has severe epilepsy and she currently pays over £1,000 a month for his cannabis-based drugs.
We did think we would get help when the law was changed and sadly we didn't, but our kids are relying on this. It's like an extra mortgage having to pay for this medicine. It's not fair.
Murray is one of the lucky ones though. Doctors believe his epilepsy is lessening, but for Karen, she can't stop the activism.
Mothers turned activists for cannabis. I mean, you just couldn't make it up. But the thing is, it works. We know it works. We have to keep going.
Thomas wasn't able to be at number 10 today because he cares full time for his son. His whole life revolves around keeping him safe during his multiple seizures a day.
As you can see, I've got foam everywhere on I've no doors in the house, I had to take them all off.
Elliot has 4 types of epilepsy, autism and Down syndrome. Professionals say his condition is drug resistant, and Thomas feels like his only option now is medicinal cannabis. But to date, he's been unable to get a prescription.
I mean, any parent that loves their bairn, they just want them to be happy, and I'm trying my best not to get emotional, but it's no fair. Okay? And that's what I think is the problem, that the people that make the decisions aren't going through this, because if they did, it would have been changed years ago.
In a statement, the Scottish Government says many medical professionals have concerns around the quality, safety, efficacy and lack of robust evidence on the use of medical cannabis. They also said they'd work with NHS England, NHS Improvement and the National Institute for Health Research to build clear evidence.
There is not enough clinical evidence and or data available to ensure the safety of prescribing cannabinoids is really the crux of the matter.
Every day these parents wait is another day their child.
Yeah, it's a horrible situation. Horrible. But they talk about it there, like the lack of evidence. Like, they never really talk about why there is a lack of evidence. We talk about like the decades of prohibition we had where we were told like no medical benefits, no, you're not having permission to do any studies into this. We won't ever talk about that. We never actually call prohibition up for the harm that it's caused. Why this protection of this fucking failed system? I don't ever understand it, especially when it's failed so badly. The most vulnerable in our society failed. Horrible stuff. But yeah, the parents over there still, as Karen said, having to, pay what's, on par with like a mortgage, to fund this life-saving medication for their kids. Meanwhile, if they were to take like fucking some of these drugs that don't work, that cost even more than a mortgage probably, but the government will cover the cost of those drugs, but they won't cover the cost of medical cannabis. I don't understand it. Like, I really feel for that father there as well, not being able to get it. It's insane. It's just that's the real crime. They're the prohibitionists. They're the real criminals here. Yeah. Apologies there, Ryan, if the mic is low. Nice one. I'll bump it up there now a little bit for you. So hopefully that comes through a little bit clearer now. Apologies. Nobody else said anything to me. Everybody else was just too kind. Well, in actual fact, Ryan was even kinder for pointing out my flaw. Thank you, Ryan. It's probably me like turning as well away from the mic and stuff. Apologies. But yeah, it was probably me trying to hide the fact that I was fucking welling up there with emotion as well. These stories involving kids just really get me every time. Like, I don't understand how you can have somebody like, you've our minister for drugs now, we've our minister for health. How are these people able to do this? Ignore the suffering of patients out there when there's so many of them. So many patients who could be benefiting from this. So many parents suffering. Like, I had a parent on the phone to me about 2 or 3 weeks ago crying because their 11-year-old daughter is a form of bone cancer that's not responding to chemo, and they're looking to get access to cannabis, but the consultant won't talk to them about it at all, because the daughter's not actually experiencing any nausea to do with the chemo. Then they won't really look at cannabis as being like a cancer treatment on its own right. Kills me, absolutely kills me, because I had to talk to that parent then, like, and try to give her as much information as I could. Going as far as, look, maybe you might have to get on a plane and go to somewhere like Spain, to the Calapa clinic or somewhere like that, or even over to the US or to Holland. But sadly here in Ireland, it just that the help, that information just isn't there, and it's not good enough now. We're 6-7 years down the road since 2016. Gino Kenny put his bill forward, a medical cannabis bill, and it was kind of approved but not really approved as such. They ended up going with the MCAP, announcing the MCAP around that time as well, and as I just mentioned, the first patient for the MCAP only got it in November 2021. The first patient, according to the Irish Daily Mirror there or something. Yeah, it was the Irish Mirror, wasn't it? Yeah. November 21, the first patient on the MCAP. Backwards, guys. Backwards. Yeah, it was great seeing yourself as well, actually, Ryan. Yeah, it was great catching up with all of the crying guys above there at the National Drugs Forum, which I suppose I'll talk a little bit about there now. as we kind of onto that. So the National Drugs Forum was on above in Dublin there the other day in Croke Park. I done a little live before it, so maybe some of you caught that. So we went into Croke Park. We were expecting, a day of networking there with some of the main people involved in drug policy, mainly the minister with responsibility for drug policy. But unfortunately, this minister with responsibility for drug policy decided, it was a good idea just to just show up, get her photo taken, open the day's events, and then bunk afterwards. She literally hightailed it out of there afterwards. So that was a real downer on the day that she disappeared, because in fairness, that was the main person I actually wanted to talk to there on the day, was the minister with responsibility for drug policy here in Ireland. Because there's a lot of questions I want to ask her, mainly around the Justice Committee report. Has she read it, and what does she think about it? I've emailed her office now twice, the same question. Has the minister seen it, and what does she think about it? What's her views on the different recommendations there? Nothing back. Just crickets. Terrible, absolutely terrible. But yeah, so she bunked after 10 minutes. Then the rest of the day, there was some okay talks, but it was very frustrating there, sitting listening to the talks, because again, there was a lot of misinformation going on there, or at least very biased information, very one-sided, one perspective of things, very much on the harms, the negative side of things. At one stage there was actually a speaker up there. She's the president of the University of Limerick, and she talked about the university's openness and diversity and inclusivity and stuff like this, but at the same time criminalising drug users. It's God, what's going on here? How can you call yourself open, inclusive, accepting, diverse, if you're going to actually then speak out the other side of your mouth and about a group of people who might use substances that you don't agree with, and treat them and be happy to treat them like criminals, and not treat them equally and meet them where they are, and kind of see what's going on, view them only as addicts. That's what pretty much came out of her mouth when she was talking. At least that was kind of what I was hearing from it. We had another group up there talking. This group was apparently they were a military organisation or something, military tech company or something like that. I think somebody was saying when they looked at their website there was some strong military connections there, but anyway. But they were up there talking about research and a lot of about how drugs, their involvement in crime and terrorism and drugs comes in under that, and how it's a continuous thing and they keep renewing it, and that they're getting since 2007 €30 billion into their organisation for research that they distribute out. Then that they're it was just money. They were talking about money and resources there within that. That there was nothing really progressive about anybody's talks. That there was no real moving forward as such. Everything was kind of sticking with the status quo as such. The only good talk actually given, in fairness, was Paul Reed's. And I'd imagine if Ryan you're there, you probably agree with me there in this. I think it was yourself said it, or maybe Brendan, but his speech was quite good, in fairness. He called out the government for the lack of urgency of on this issue. Talking about how in 2017 they passed a health-led approach, and it's been just sitting on a desk gathering dust, doing nothing. They're just ignoring it effectively. Now I know that there was the introduction of this fucking discretionary thing with the cops, where they can but that was always there. The cops could always show discretion, but I think there was a bit more emphasis on them showing discretion for the person on the first time, but it still involved the person getting a caution. It's not very health-led. You still have to go to the guards, it's but anyhow, he called them out for that, and he called them out as well to make sure that they don't continue to treat it as that it should be treated with the urgency that it respects, and that is a high urgency. So that was a good speech, and it was quite relevant too, given that the minister fucked off after 10 minutes. Kind of really strengthened his position there, that these people actually just don't give a fuck. They don't they're just putting positions of power in order to kind of line their own pockets, in order to just keep the power within the party, regardless of their abilities, regardless of how committed they actually are to the role. Because if you ask me, like Minister, like Hildegard Naughton, like she is not committed to this role. She is paid very, very little attention to the issue around drugs. Like I've seen nothing as of yet really relevant from her in regards to say the recent bad batch of heroin that went around that was contaminated with nitrazines. I've not really seen anything of relevance. Everything of relevance has come from different organisations. The minister has kind of not come out and said anything at all of importance. Like even coming out and saying, "Oh, we're going to be tougher on these drug dealers peddling this stuff." She hasn't even come out and said that. She doesn't give a shit. At least that's my opinion. And it seemed to be the opinion of Paul Reid too. Any other good speakers there on the day? Nobody really coming to mind as such. We didn't really get. I got to speak a little bit with Bobby Smith. Got a little dig in there, but also got to have a little personal chat there as well as kind of had to thank him for stuff he'd done there in the past in regards to my daughter and things. So that was nice to actually get to meet him and just have that separate conversation to him. And then as I was kind of leaving, just being like, yeah, I just want to thank you there anyway before we go back to battling around online and being kind of arch nemesises. And he got a little bit of a laugh off him. And I goes, and don't feel too bad that you're losing either. It's like snap. Gotcha. And then I rushed off away then at that point because I didn't really have much more to say with him. I know I'm never going to change that guy's mind, and there was no real point of engaging in any bit of a debate or anything with him there. We were about ready to just finish up lunch and head back in, and there was another person on the other side of him waiting to have a chat with him too. So, you know, I just kind of said what I had to say. I got to shake the man's hand, just told him it's not personal, which was nice. It was good to do that, like, because it isn't anything personal, but still, like, he's completely wrong about his position. So that was a good interaction I had up there on the day too with Bobby. And then at the end of the day, guys, yeah, Ryan was at the end of the day, we got an opportunity to engage in little breakout groups, and we kind of split up into groups. And at the start of the day, I made it my business to kind of sit away from the guys, the Cron lads, and it was nothing personal, obviously. They know this. I sat down at a table on my own completely, right up in front of the stage, knowing that, like, somebody has to sit here at this table. I don't care who it is, but it's going to be probably somebody that I don't know, and it's probably going to be a public servant. Interestingly enough, I had two people sit at my table with me. They were from the Dublin services above there in Dublin. Two, I think, volunteer service workers, or maybe they're getting paid. I didn't actually ask them if they were volunteer, if they got paid. It's obviously none of my business, really, I suppose. But I got to have a very good chat with them just about the services they were providing. They got to have a chat with me about, you know, what motivated me to make my way up from Cork. They were kind of like, you're coming from Cork, you're not working from any of the services, like, and you're here. Like, what's motivating you to be here? Like, they were really interested, like, so that was cool. So that was a nice thing. And then again, as I say, when we broke up afterwards, then there was a load of people. There was 10 people at my table. I knew one of them, actually. Sorry, I knew one of the guys from Psycare Ireland. I knew none of the other guys. So that was a great opportunity too. The objective of the group was to form a prediction of what the 2040 would look like, based upon different kind of outcomes. So we were given different scenarios we could vote on as a group that we wanted to go on. We chose two different scenarios. One of them involved drugs being legal and stuff like that, and then the other one where they were just tolerated. The other situation was where drugs are mostly bought online, and the other one on the opposite end of that was where, what was the other one? Anyhow, but it was great. We formed these predictions, but informing them, like, and we had 2 hours to do so. I think it was 2 hours we had in this activity, and in the 2 hours we had some incredible debates at the table, and I for a good bit of it, you know, I got my opinion in there, and then I would sit back and let other people kind of get their points out, and I really listened to them because there was a very wide, diverse range of opinions there. And to be honest, I think mine was like the furthest there in favour of legalisation, obviously enough. But it wasn't the only one there, but I think mine was just a bit further than everybody else's. But in having that conversation, it was really good. I got to listen to other people's fears there, and I got to be able to hopefully quell those fears. At least I was able to argue my position enough, where my my recommendations were making it to the board. And I was not ramming my opinion down anybody's throats or anything. It was a very constructive debates happening. So sometimes I would make a recommendation based upon the kind of the two scenarios we had there, and then it was open because people were kind of slow to make recommendations. So I was just kind of, yeah, throw this up there as a recommendation, and somebody might have a contrasting view, and then that was good because then we could kind of have a little debate between me and this other person, and then as a group, the group decided like, oh yeah, let's put that up there. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and quite often or not, it was my argument making the sense. And then at the end of it, I was voted as the person then to deliver the predictions to the whole room. I didn't realise that this was going to be happening at the end, but then we had to deliver our predictions to the whole room. And my group was kind of like, well, they're nearly all your recommendations, Martin. Go on up there and deliver it. So yeah, I got to deliver all the recommendations then to the room, so I got the mic, which was great. Like I thought it was a good opportunity. I like to think I explained all of the points well, at least all of the ones that that were mine. I think there was one or two there that weren't really mine. But because of all the debating as well, we didn't really complete all of the predictions too. We didn't come up with all of the threats and the what was the threat and the solution. But anywho, yeah, it was a great day overall. Anyway, I really enjoyed it. I missed the opportunity to not get to network with the Minister for Drugs, but look, overall, I thought it was worth setting the alarm for 4:20 that morning, as I said, over on X. And that's no joke. I actually set my alarm for 4:20 that morning. It was tough to get up, but I have my ritual in the morning with my coffee, and I really wanted to start my day right that day. So I got up, had a lovely coffee, was on time for my train, had a lovely train journey up, was reading Carl Hart's book, actually. Didn't know, do I have it here next to me? No. Drug Use for Adults. Got to read that going up and down on the train, so that was lovely. Got to hang out with the guys from Cron as well up there, which was great. And we had a little glass of wine and all afterwards. Shout out to Graham as well. I owe you an old bevy. I'm going to get you back for that one. And Ryan, I'm going to have to get you one too as well. But I was hoping that we might have stayed for one more, and I was hoping to buy the next drunk for everybody, but obviously everybody had places to go. Yeah, I see Ryan there agreeing as well that Reed was the best, which is a low bar in fairness. It was a fairly low bar in fairness. Like, what was really interesting is that like where was the different groups there, I suppose, that should have been represented there on the day. Drugs.ie. Where was Nikki Killen? I was really expecting to see Nikki Killen up there, the lady who was behind the drug testing at Electric Picnic. I was really expecting some conversation around the drug testing that happened there earlier this year, given it was an event run by the Health Research Board, the HRB. I thought like that whole thing was like a research project as such. Like I thought they would have had a bit more like information there, statistics or something, or at least like fucking had the people there who were doing it to kind of network with people a bit and chat with them. But yeah, that was another thing I was expecting and was disappointed on. Yeah. So I suppose, yeah, that's my feedback there on the National Drugs Forum. Overall, constructive, positive day. Few missed opportunities there, few, complaints, but overall, it was good. Any day you get to network with your buddies in the cannabis community is nearly always a good day because I suppose as many of you know out there, socialising isn't something that we get to do quite often or not, around cannabis anyway, at least, where we're kind of hiding away, staying within our small little tight-knit circles, and we never really get to expand outside of that. So even at events like that, like not even socialising over a pint, like, but even socialising just in networking, that's great fun. Like I really enjoy that, and we need more of that. Yes. So let's get something else grinded up here. What's in this grinder? Who knows what I grinded up there now? I had a couple of different buds floating around. That grinder was loaded up there. Shout out to R420 as well. Ups, down. Boom. Shameless plug for R420. Not a sponsor of the show, but certainly a good friend. Yes, give him one more. Yes, there we go. So that's Oh, we have another bit of news there for you actually as well. It's not negative at all. It's just about the Irish cannabis consuming community. So let's have a little delve through this, shall we, before we start signing off, saying our goodbyes then after this one. So one second. If I zoom out here. I'm just going to move this there again. Irish cannabis users top of the EU list for those who buy drugs via social media and receive delivery by post. Go on, shout out to Postman Pat. There's actually a drug dealer out there called Postman Pat. I think he was active over on Snapchat or something. I don't think he's active anymore. At least he's disappeared off of my Snapchat. I used to love adding these different dealers on Snapchat and getting to see their ads and stuff, like, because yeah, it was just always funny, and I kind of liked to be in the knowing what was going on out there as to what was available, how much it was being sold for, how were they advertising it. I was always just very interested in the scene, but never really partook a whole lot. I did share with you before my one experience of buying stuff over Snapchat, and I had this group of 15-year-olds, about 7 or 8 of them, come down to me over on the south side of the city during COVID. And literally gave one of them the money, another one of them handed me the bag, and they just fucked off again. I was just thinking that I feel bad for actually taking part in that kind of a purchase, and you know, I suppose reinforcing, you know, the use of minors in the sale of cannabis, because I know why they do it. Obviously, you know, a young fella gets caught with a bit of cannabis is much less likely to end up going to prison and shit than, say, a guy in his 20s. If they're getting caught dealing it, that is, like. But anyhow, so this article goes on to say that more cannabis users in Ireland buy the drug via social media, and it have delivered to them through the postal service than in the 29 other counties surveyed for a significant new report. Countries. The EU Drugs Market Cannabis Report, released by the European Monitoring Centre for Drugs and Drug Addiction and Europol, also warns products were becoming more potent and diverse. And that's true, actually. The range of products is increasing on the Irish market. But guys, keep in mind, the Forensic Science Ireland just told us that over 50% of what they seized and tested was synthetic cannabinoids. So while the range of products is becoming more diverse, quite often or not, it's not even cannabis you're getting. But it says more cannabis herb and resin was seized in 2021 in EU than in any other time in the last decade. Some 256 tons of herbal cannabis, 816 tons of cannabis resin, and 4.3 million plants. Oh my god, like, I'm just thinking of that, like they're all supposed to be environmentally friendly, like an unenvironmentally friendly prohibition is, like, all of this stuff has to be destroyed. It's going to be burnt and nobody actually gets to use it. It's not going to be used. Like, that 256 tons of herbal cannabis now is literally going to go up in smoke and come pass through nobody's lungs. At least passing through some person's lungs, you know, to take a little bit of the carbon out of it in the form of tar. Or maybe you get the health conscious cannabis consumers who would have vaporized that cannabis and actually kept all of the carbon stored within the herb itself, because when you vaporize it, you're not releasing all of that carbon. You're just releasing all of the volatile chemicals. So therefore a lot of the carbon stays there, and if they're environmentally conscious, health conscious cannabis consumers, then they would probably compost it after they've cooked with it. So not only will they vapor it, but then they would have used it for maybe making edibles, and then composted the what they would have filtered out of it, you know? Like, all of that stuff just goes up in smoke now, straight up into the atmosphere, ruining the environment. Then I go on to say cocaine seizures might be grabbing the headlines, but trafficking in cannabis is just as important a threat. No, it is not. It's important a moneymaker for the likes of Europol, who continue to paint it as a problem when it's not really a problem. It's a fictitious problem created by these fucking these merchants of deceit. You know, that's pretty. Is that what they are? Merchants of deceit. They're deceiving people, deceiving society, continuing to create this picture of cannabis as being a threat to society. It's not. The only thing that's actually a real threat to society is the prohibition of cannabis. The prohibition of cannabis is what continues to prop up these organised crime gangs. The likes of Europol and all of the rest of them out there, the MOACs, coming up with all this information to try to say, like, oh yeah, we have to continue doing what we're doing. It's very important because we have to stop drugs because they're such a threat. But really, like, come on. If there's such a threat, like how come shit's not gone how come things haven't gone to shit with all of the drugs that you're not catching? Because look, you're catching more and more each year, but there's more and more getting through each year. Anyhow, it says the cannabis trail yields a staggering 11.4 billion annually, which is still a minimum estimated value of the market, and it is probably a minimum. And it would probably grow a lot higher if it was to be regulated, because you've so many offshoot industries, especially like when you look at what a byproduct of the cannabis market would be, which would be, say, the hemp. You know, we hear so much about hemp. Like a byproduct of the cannabis industry is going to be all of this hemp fiber that could be processed into things like paper, but more importantly, into maybe some houses and stuff like that. You know, you could build houses with hemp these days. Maybe we get some cheap houses there from all of the recycled hemp from the cannabis industry, and the government get behind it. Who knows, you know? But instead, we're ruining the environment there with this prohibition. But anyhow, criminals involved in the trade because of prohibition increasingly veered into extreme violence to further their criminal goals and to use the proceeds to fund other criminal activities and infiltrate economies and societies, underlining the need to fight against them. No, it's underlining the need to regulate the trade. It really is, like, because the trade needs to be regulated. If you truly want to, like, do what they're saying, fight against them, then you would regulate the trade. You take away the backbone, because basically the backbone of the trade here of these criminals is the fact that it's prohibited. If you take away that backbone, like, they're going to fall. They're going to be limp. They're not going to be able to stand for themselves, and they're not going to be able to fight against you. They're going to have to find something to replace that backbone. And maybe you can go fight against them on that then at that point. But, like, at least then drug users won't be under the thumb of these criminals, you know, at the mercy of these criminals who are, instead of giving them heroin and giving them nitrazine, you know, those very same criminals. Why wouldn't you want to take that backbone out of them, take the power away from them? Like, you've already admitted, like, you can't prevent drugs from reaching the intended market. So instead of, like, just continuing to do the failed thing, regulate the drug trade. Let the government set up a way in which, like, even a community can provide for itself like that. Like, Jesus, man, imagine if you had people who were able to actually grow opium, even, like, go as far as that and give people opium to smoke in that kind of a form, and get them away from heroin as a form of harm reduction. Instead of shooting up heroin with needles and stuff, be able to smoke some, like, organic grown, Irish grown, soil grown, fucking sun grown opium. Apparently it's not even really that addictive as such, like, as long as you don't have the prerequisite criteria there for addiction, such as trauma, you know. And even in those instances where people do, at least they're going to be actually going somewhere where they're going to be met with a professional of some sort. They're going to be cared for, unlike on the streets here where they're getting fucking nitrazine. Sorry, look, I'll get back to cannabis anyways. This is about cannabis. Irish cannabis users were especially keen on buying the drug via social media, including Snapchat, Facebook and Instagram. The findings for Ireland are based upon a survey of 8,104 respondents in 2021. And again, keep in mind, 2021, now straight away it comes to mind, this was done during COVID. The data was collected from 48,469 drug user respondents between March and April 21, living in 21 EU and 9 non-EU countries. Headline data from the surveys was published in late 2021. However, the report launched yesterday as the first time drug purchasing trends in the 30 surveyed countries are compared, putting cannabis users in Ireland at the top of some purchasing trends. A total of 22 and 21% of respondents in Ireland said they had bought cannabis herb and resin via social media, more than any of the 29 countries surveyed. Some 17% of the cannabis resin users in Ireland had the drug delivered to them via the postal service, also the highest of the countries surveyed. And I'd imagine it's actually a lot higher, but a lot of them are afraid to even admit it in case it up the security in the postal service. I know people who actually said that to me. I'm not doing that survey at all. By people are idiots by telling them we're getting in the post. Like, you know, they're going to put the security up. I had the exact same thing said to me when I posted all the joints to the politicians that time. So it's like, oh, what are you doing, but you're going to affect the delivery of medicine out to the patients. And it's kind of like, sorry. But realistically, it's not. Like. But anyway, the average potency of herbal cannabis in the EU rose about 57% between 2011 and 2021. Really? While the potency of cannabis resin has increased 200% in the same people, raising additional health concerns for users. Come on, really, like, these are outlandish claims. While cannabis herb and resin still dominate the market, other cannabis products were also growing in popularity. The increasing wide range of products being produced and offered for sale in the EU included oil, a variety of other high potency extracts known as concentrates, vaping products, and edibles, including sweets. The report notes that over an 8-week period beginning March 17, 2021, 6 children aged 3 to 10 were treated in Dublin for THC poisoning after consuming cannabis edibles. Guys, keep in mind, THC poisoning, alright? THC poisoning. If they were treated for that, they could have been mistreated because potentially it wasn't even THC poisoning given the information given to us by the Forensic Science Ireland. They said over 50% of the cannabis edible products tested contained synthetic cannabinoids. Like, if you even say like that number was a bit lower, let's say it was 20% back then, 6 children, at least one of those kids was poisoned with a synthetic cannabinoid. At least one. And that's been very, very conservative. It's potentially up to 3 of them, or even all fucking 6 of them. You know? Because that's the danger we face with cannabis edibles in this country, is you just don't know what you're actually getting. And then it's potentially deadly. Luckily, none of these kids died, so maybe potentially it was THC. But who knows? Overall, most survey respondents, anyway, 93% across the 30 countries reported using cannabis during the previous 12 months. Some 35% of respondents had used MDMA ecstasy in the previous year, and 35% had used cocaine, and 28% had used amphetamine. The most commonly reported motivations for cannabis use were relaxation. Not stabbing people, guys, not stabbing people, you know what I mean? Nobody smoked cannabis and want to go stab their neighbour because his dog shat in his garden. You know? Getting high, not stabbing people. And aiding sleep. And not having dreams about stabbing people, you know what I mean? Like, nobody's saying I want to go to sleep and dream about stabbing people, you know, because that cunt down the road, he's an awful prick and I want to stab him. Nobody does that, like, come on. Home is reported as most common setting for the drug during the period, of course, because everybody consumes home or the friend's house. Am I right? Wrong? Home, friend's house, anywhere else people consume cannabis out in public, maybe. Potentially, I know I'm guilty of that one. I definitely go into the city every now and again, meet up with people for lunch, go down to a park. Again, try not to be like rude or ignorant and go walking around and blowing smoke in people's face, but I'll try to find a corner, a spot where I'm not in anybody's space and just spark away up. I know the smell drifts and stuff, but to be fair, like, if you're smelling it, that's completely different from actually inhaling the THC. Anybody who thinks that you're going to get high from just being able to smell somebody smoking cannabis is an absolute idiot and doesn't understand pharmacology. You'd have to be standing right next to the person and they'd have to really be blowing the smoke in your face in order for you to get any bit of a second-hand high. Just because even if you're walking behind a person and you can smell it, doesn't mean that you're actually going to be getting high unless you're like really in their personal space, you know? And if that's the case, get the fuck back. Stop invading a person's personal space, especially a dude smoking a doob. He's paranoid enough as it is without you being walking up behind him. Thank God I'm not in the house anymore. I used to get killed for laughing at my own jokes. Oh, there I go again. Woo! Oops, I did it again. Guys, you're all absolute legends for joining me here and in sharing this time with me. It's a pleasure to be back on here as well, doing this. As I've said the last time, I'm going to be making an effort to be doing this more regularly. I'm certainly going to be making an effort there as well to be setting time aside to be doing some more interviews, because I think it's needed now more than ever, really, to be kind of clearing the smoke, if you will. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there within the media right now. The propaganda is kind of really ramping up from these prohibitionists. They're relentless and they're shameless. They really are shameless, like, when you consider the fact that, like, I done an article there calling them out because they were associating cannabis legalization with an increase in suicide rate. But in doing so, like, as I call them out for in the article, they were completely overlooking a much more obvious cause of that rise, and that's the introduction of social media, because the period in which they were referring to was actually a period in which, like, Instagram became much more of a relevant app to be using. And we all know Instagram, it's a very much image-focused thing. And they were very specific about the age group that they targeted there as well. And this age group would have been right around that time, fitting in perfectly to where Instagram would have been at its peak. So there would have been a lot more social pressures there on these people. So therefore, that's much more likely a cause of the rise there in the suicide rate. And I'm putting the light on cannabis then. You're doing a disservice to those people you're claiming to care about, because you're not really actually tackling the thing that's going to be most effective at reducing that number. You know? So sorry, you know, if I'll leave it at that. I'll get ranting again otherwise about these fucking prohibitionists and their misinformation. But guys, no, it's a positive to come from it anyway. It's motivating me to get back at it. It's motivating me to counter some of this fucking negative spin that there is out there on cannabis, because we don't deserve it, guys. We've faced enough stigma over the last number of decades as a community, having to listen to some of that rhetoric there in the news all the time about, you know, it rots your brain, unmotivated, lazy, dysfunctional, you know, insert your fucking typical slur by a prohibitionist, and we had to put up with that shit. Like, no more though. I'm not, like, I'm on here. I'm countering that. I'm as motivated as ever. Always meeting all of my different, what would you say, different kind of things there to tick the boxes to be a productive member within society, looking after my kids, raising them right, engaging here and trying to improve policy in Ireland to improve society. I don't need to. I could be like many of the other cannabis consumers out there and remain in the shadows, remain in the dark, protect my own neck, and just look out for myself. But no, I'm sick of that. I face that injustice, and maybe I'm selfish, but I don't want myself or anybody else for that matter to have to go through what I went through, because it was a horrible experience. So I'll keep doing what I'm doing, and hopefully it'll keep coming back too. Yeah, whatever that one was, it was nice. I think it was the Bubba's Kush. Sorry, Bubba's Wreck Hole. Yes. Shout out to Greenbeard. Where are you at, Greenbeard? What we got here? Oh yes, we got some orange sherbet. Yes. It's green screen is going to kill me there now, so sorry. But yeah, this is lovely. You really want smell-o-vision to really appreciate this, but David D, what you expect and what you get into, different things need a new approach. I can guarantee after a smoke and a different approach, something can come of it. Just need to approach this differently. When great minds come together, anything can be done. Yeah, man, I like that optimism, Dave. I love that optimism. B. Mooney says, but according to the Gardaí at the Citizens' Assembly, 92% of the population doesn't consume drugs. Yeah, according to the Gardaí. According to the Gardaí don't do drugs either, but they don't want to do drug tests either. You know, imagine that, like, you know. The Gardaí object every time it's put to them for mandatory random drug tests. They object. They'll go on strike if it happens. The Garda representative authority. You know, and I'm not making this shit up, like, you know, and they actually object to it. GRA reject drug testing members. As stated, the GRA is not against drug testing with genuine causes and is willing to work with random drug testing of its membership up to a fair. Up to a fair on what? Sorry, no, it's just kind of... Like, you can all read that if you want to go over there and have a read off of that sometime. Garda body seek talks over drug testing plans as staff unions reject proposals. Do you know they reject the drug testing proposals? The guys who want to be able to stop you and me, have the power to stop you and me going down the road and search us for our potential drugs, don't want to be drug tested themselves. These are the same Gardaí who were leaving their devices back at the station when they went out in the cars because their seniors were able to actually listen in on their whatever they had in the cars, and they were leaving them behind so that they weren't able to be listened to in the car, so they could have a good read off of fucking, Sergeant Dickhead back at the station. It's gas, like, but they don't trust they don't trust themselves, but they want to be able to us to trust them. Then get off the stage, lads. Tret Wong says, great to see you back, Martin. Grower love. Yes. Nice one, Tret love. Or Tret Wonk, sorry. Nice one for the love, Tret Wonk. David D, keep it blazing. I will indeed, my man. Keith Allerin says, let's get them on the lies. It's so easy to get them on the lies. Like, as I said, these prohibitionists are just shameless now at where they're going. In regards to the outlandish claims they're making about cannabis and cannabis users, they're just making it easy for us now at this point. So let them keep making it easy for us. Dave Ayres, Martin, I really get the injustices of what you're going through on a human level. If you've free time, drop me a message. Grey hair and you talk. I'm a bit out of the loop. That sherbet looks savage. Yeah, the sherbet's quite tasty. All right, now, that one actually has been in the jar, guys. Some of you out there might know better than me. But that one's in the jar now, a couple of months, I'd say. And it's cured lovely, actually, to be fair. It's really developed a lovely flavour. Just packed up one more bowl, so guys, and we'll blaze that one with you. Get your comments in there, guys. Any shout outs, any points you want to raise, anything you want to highlight there, get them into the half box before we sign off there in the next 4 minutes and 20 seconds. But yes, the love is reciprocated, guys. It's great to be back on here. I hope to make it a bit more of a regular thing. Get the posts up on the blog as well, guys. So keep checking out that the Martin's World 420 News blog. We try to get articles up there countering some of the misinformation that's going on within the media, as best as I can, as often as I can. And yeah, no, that's it. Yeah, y'all probably are already following me, subscribing in places like that, so I don't even need to waste my time saying that. So let's blaze this orange sherbet up with you. I'm always reminded as well when I look at this bong. Shout out to Cork Herbal Products. Legend. Gave me this bong there probably about a year ago or so now, but yeah, love it. Doing the trick very nicely. He had got it for himself, but thought it would find a better home with me. I think, yeah, you weren't really using it that often. I think, Ferg. Hopefully she's safe there now. But right, guys, I think, unless anybody has anything to say there, guys, let everybody forever hold your peace. We got not much else now for the rest of the evening. We're going to go in and relax with the family. Hopefully the kids aren't too tired there now when I go in. Where's the 420 word clock on? Where is it 420 now? It's 420 summer, isn't it? What kind of a stoner would I be if I didn't pack up another bowl for 420 in Norana, South Georgia, and the South Sandwich Islands? Jesus, it's been a while since we talked about the South Sandwich Islands. It's always 420 summer, guys. Any excuse, huh? One more. 3, 2, 1. Way! I think that's applause. No, that's a laugh. No, that's on. Hey, that's applause. Hey. I normally had labels around the soundboard there, but since I moved it, that's now in the drawer rather than actually around the soundboard buttons. So no shame in how unprofessional I can be on here sometimes. But it's grand though. Y'all forgive me. Y'all love me, don't you? I hope. I feel there's nothing but love's coming my way anyway for me. Mr. O'Brien, especially from yourself, my man, says, always a pleasure, certainly. So here's to everybody out there, guys. One last one with you. We hang around for the next 420, will we? Nah, let's not. Oh, that's a deep bowl. She's toast now. Grab your parachutes just in time for the goodbyes. Goodbye. Bye, grab your parachutes. What's it say here till 4:20? Countdown till 4:20. Guys, just in case you didn't know, there is 153 days, 4 hours, 38 minutes, and counting till 4:20 in 2024. What day is it going to be next year? Anybody know? April 20th next year is a Saturday. Woo! That is a good one. Yeah, Saturday next year at 4:20. Put that one in your calendar, because guys, make sure you've got no work on that day, and make sure you get your ass out there, and let's celebrate. Let's get out there and celebrate the end of cannabis prohibition, or for the end of cannabis prohibition. I think if you call it a celebration more than a protest, you might get more people to come. And a daily inspiration here. Because of your smile, you make life more beautiful. That is very true. That's something I always like to try to do. It's like the least amount of energy you can put into doing something that can actually have a massive effect on a person. Just smiling at a person, you know, like you're buying your fucking, I don't know, your lotto ticket there, and not even your lotto, you're just getting your pack of cigarettes there or something like that off the thing, and you buy it off and just smile at the person. Just smile. Don't do it too creepy. Like, don't look like fucking Ted Bundy on the other side of the counter smiling, like, but you know, smiles are infectious. Yeah, I noticed that. I noticed that myself, like when I'm getting a roll off of somebody, when I'm getting at the deli. And you notice the difference between a person who like look at you and actually kind of smile and engage with you, between a person who just take your order, make your roll, give it to you, and just go on to the next person. Like, it's like, geez, what's fucking stuck up that person's ass? And then you might be thinking, geez, they must have had a really bad morning, you know. But yeah, there's a lot of thought to that. Like, you know, guys, just make sure when you go out in the morning, wear your smile. Don't forget you're representing the cannabis community. Somebody asks you, why are you always smiling? Cannabis. Yes. Yes, guys, much love to you all. Anyway, I'm going to bounce on out. B Mooney saying, cheers, Martin, you in the new studio. Audio sounding crisp on the sound studio monitors. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I'm in a new spot there now. I still have a little bit of work to do on the walls. Everything is insulated. Green screen is up behind me, as you can kind of not see. But yeah, green screen is up there. Just going to get him some plasterboard now. I think that's going to be the last thing, and maybe stick in a little bit more insulation. But like even right now, we're at 24 degrees inside in here. Nice low humidity as well. 58% there humidity. It's nice, cozy, comfy. The equipment is safe out here as well, which is great. But a little bit more insulation will go so much further in terms of keeping the electricity bill down. But yeah, new studio, comfy, cozy, and glad the sound is coming through. And apologies on the mic being a bit low earlier there in the stream. So guys, much love to everybody. Catch you back here maybe same time next week, maybe a bit earlier in the week, who knows. Keep an eye out for the scheduled stream. As I said, I will be working my way around to getting a more regular time cemented in, and to be getting more regular interviews as well, so you've all that to look forward to, guys. So catch you all later. Much love. Bye bye.